Boys Ecnl 2021 and 22 program preview. Tonight will be an opportunity for us to go over quite a bit of what we will expect for next year's season outlook. There is quite a bit of information that we'll be sharing tonight, which always, it's a good thing. It's catch-22, good and bad. But what I will do is there will be some information that we'll still be updating here in due time. And, I also want to leave some info for the coaches to share in their respective team meetings that they'll have not too much longer after we have this meeting today. What I will do is share my screen. We are going to just take a look at the presentation here that I have set up. Just give me 1 second. All right. And hopefully everyone can see this. Let's see here. Okay, so as I said, welcome to our program preview meeting. I am Maurice Hughes. I am the Loudoun Ecnl Boys Director. I have been the Ecnl Director now going on 3 years, as we have just only recently joined the league a few years ago. But previous to that, I was the Development Academy Director for a handful of years. And then before that, I was a red team travel team coach within Loudoun Soccer. Myself, I am currently going on I think it's my 13th year here at the club. Loudoun is a place that I've grown as a coach, I've grown as a person, and is very near and dear to my heart. And the Ecnl program, the Elite Boys program, is something that I have been involved in, obviously, as I said, for more than a handful of years, and look forward to some of the things that we have moving forward. As you can see here, here's our agenda for the night. We will be reviewing, as I said, multiple items, but I'll just do my best to get through these quickly, but without rushing. Just a little bit about the club, Loudoun Soccer, and who we are. Our catchphrase and our slogan for the club is developing champions for life. I can say that for myself, I've seen quite a few stories come through the club. And we continue to embody our mission here, which is to create soccer players, coaches, and teams of strong character committed to achievement on the field and in our community. The core values that we have, you can see, are fun, integrity, fairness, teamwork, and stewardship, which I think is a very key one for our players as we move through the pathway that we have. And then kind of further to that, for the Ecnl program specifically, we have, and we do absolutely take pride in helping players grow and evolve on the field as people and as players. And so we look forward to continuing to do that. Obviously, our program here is focused on helping players achieve success on the field, whether that's evolving their game at the highest level, which is playing in the Ecnl, or even playing in college. And we even have some players who have reached the professional ranks. So that's something that we absolutely take pride in. The Ecnl, that is obviously the league that we are members of for our boys and girls program here at Loudoun. The Ecnl Core Values, this is straight off of their page, but it's innovation, respect, opportunity, development, and excellence. For us, the Ecnl, one of the major reasons why we are a part of this league is because, one, it helps us and allows us and supports us in our goals, which is providing elite opportunities for our players, as well as they are hyper focused on creating opportunities, multiple opportunities for players to reach the college level. and even the professional level for those players that have that ability. So the Ecnl is right where we want to be as a boys and a girls program, and we are absolutely proud members of this league, of being in the league. Just a quick year in review. So obviously this past year, everybody went through it just as I did. We dealt with quite a bit over the last, I would say, 12 to 14 months. And so with that, you can say that soccer clubs and soccer programs are also dealing with a tough time, not only in their individual and personal lives, but then also trying to keep their clubs afloat and to make sure that their programs are running as smoothly as you could during a pandemic. And so I will say, though, that even though the club and most people in clubs have had trials and tribulations through that pandemic period, I can say that we are proud of, how we managed these waters, you can say. And we will do our best to continue charging forward. But just some couple bullet points and a little bit of a timeline of what happened, in the program during the last year. Just at the top here, we have just over the year, when the year turned in the new year, we were notified that we were ranked in the top 20 or top 100 really, but ranked number 13 for best boys club sending players to college in the nation. And that was done by Top Drawer Soccer. COVID, and I have 2020, excuse me, but it should be COVID was obviously in March of 2020, which hit everybody and just basically threw a major wrench into planning, into life, including everything that happens at the club. For the players being directly affected, there was an NCAA dead period. So the top coaches of the NCAA Division I programs that many of our players aspired to attending were not able to watch players for what was ultimately an entire year. That dead period was just lifted, if you're aware, on June 1st. So something that we're very happy about, and looking forward to sending our players to the national event here next month to give them an opportunity to play in front of some Division I schools. Some positives, though, some more positives. We had many players committing to four-year universities and colleges over the past year, which was, again, a tough time for players who were trying to get in a recruiting phase of these schools. But we still managed. There were a lot of players that we managed to still help and get through that process, and we'll continue to do so. We had Loudoun soccer alumni last year competing in the NCAA Division I championship, which was something very special for the club. We had Loudoun soccer alumni drafted in the 2021 MLS Super Draft, being Brett Halsey and Colin Shuttler, who are former players of the Loudoun 98 Red Team, which was coached last by our current Ecnl coach, Mark Ryan, who is also our technical director at the club. And then finally, our 2005 boys team this season qualified for the Ecnl National Playoffs, which will take place here in July, which is also another very exciting achievement and accomplishment during a tough time, without a doubt. So hats off to those boys. Here is our lineup, and you've probably seen this graphic on social media to some degree, but this is our coaching staff. This is our on-field staff for this next coming season. We have Coach Roberto Parada, who will be taking our U13 and our U14 boys respectively. Coach Ivan Stevanovic, who doubles as our goalkeeping director for the Ecnl boys program, is our U15 coach. We have myself, who will be with the U16 06 boys. Mark Ryan, again, our technical director, will be the U17 boys coach, 2005s, and then John O'Hara, who is our U18, U19 coach, which will be the 04 and 03 age groups. just continuing on, here is a macro look at our staff on the field. That what wasn't on the last page, we have Coach Roberto Parada and Kent Legg, who have technical positions in our program. Kent Legg is our strength and conditioning coach. Kent is also the strength and conditioning coach for the Washington Spirit, who are now headquartered just across the street here at Bolin Park and Segra Field. So, and then lastly, we have Coach Roberto Parada. We have promoted Coach Roberto to the boys Ecnl technical advisor role this year. And what that means is that Coach Roberto will be supporting the players and the staff on the field throughout the year in various technical areas with regards to training, with regards to game tactics, match day, match analysis, so on and so forth. So we are proud to have Coach Roberto joining us and as a member of the support staff for the technical staff. There's just another shot, all of us kind of put on one page. We'll push through there, myself as the director and the three guys that we just mentioned. And then our support administrative staff. These are some of our unsung heroes, you can say, with our program manager, Fiona Legg, and her assistant, Beth Meeker, who are entrenched in our day-to-day operations administratively. Many of you have coordinated with them at some point. We have our fields and facilities manager, Carolyn Deutsch, who is another key member of not only our program, but the club when it comes to just making sure that we are taken care of when we need it to be. And then we have Karen Buer, who is our director of outreach. And essentially, Karen is also another key player in our program who helps us with a lot of our social media and info going out about things happening within the program. Moving on to more of our unsung heroes, but very, very key parts of our program. We have our team liaisons for each team in the club, or each team in the program. These members of the club are people who help us with the day-to-day organization of individual team logistics. And so you will be hearing about or hearing from the people in your age group often. And please make sure you take care of them, because they will be doing their best to take care of yourselves and ourselves as the staff here. So moving forward, kind of into our player expectations, our Ecnl expectations. Over this past year, we have had a chance to really focus on some of the standards and the ways that we would like to operate our program. With that comes setting standards for individuals, whether it's the players, whether it's the coaching staff, even parents. But here is just a snapshot of that framework that we've created that will be shared more in detail closer to the season by the coaches specifically, to the players and to their parents yourselves. But this is our Ecnl player key qualities and characteristics. So ultimately, this is like a profile, so to speak, that you would that optimizes or gives an optimal look at the characteristics of players that we would like to have in the club. And when we in the program, and when we recruit players, or when we bring players into the program, these are many of the areas in which we are focused on when we are evaluating whether they are a fit for the program or not. So just to go through a couple: game understanding and decision making, initiative taking, players that are willing to go out and lead, optimal technical ability. Ecnl players are playing in the top league in the nation with regards to boys youth player development. So technical ability and accountability is crucial. Willingness to work hard. And you see right under there, it's willing to defend. We always, working hard is working hard is a job description bullet point, no doubt, when it comes to being in a team. But, you know, defending is something that also is going to help you win games. Here we just say defense wins games, offense wins championships. So that's that. Responsibility, self-regulation. So we feel that players that are going to exceed in this game, excel in this game, are the players that are the most self-caring and responsible players that you don't have to do too much looking after. They look after themselves. They take responsibility and accountability for themselves, which is something that is key to a player who's going to reach elite levels. The next one being focus. Players who can focus. We need players that are willing and able to focus to understand the task at hand. Optimal physical ability. Players, if they aren't physically the best, that's perfectly fine. But we do encourage our players to improve and work on their physical abilities. And obviously, we don't have enough time in training to do that every time we step on the field. So it's up to the players individually to take that responsibility and that accountability for their own physical development, should they need to excel their game on the physical side. And then last is just being a respectful and supportive member of the program, which is something that reflects on all of us and something that we expect of all the players as being members of our Ecnl program. And we feel that these qualities will allow our players to successfully progress through our player development pathway. The commitment, player commitments. Being a member of the Ecnl program is a year-round commitment, without a doubt. We do take natural breaks for the players and the coaching staff in the winter time, which will be essentially for most teams, not all, but most teams, end of November-ish. And that will end around early January. And then the summer break periods are essentially now till about mid-July, which we will discuss a little bit later in detail. Competition spans pretty much nationwide, depending on the competition that we are participating in. Generally, with our league play, our conference play, we will play local teams and state teams within the region. So that being Virginia, Maryland, and North Carolina will be our league play. We also compete in regional events such as Ecnl events that are hosted in various cities. And then we are also consistent members of various tournaments around the area, which will be in state or out of state, depending on, you know, your age group or your team. Academics. Being a program that is focused on sending players to college, academics is vital and pretty much number one. Not listed number one, but it shouldn't have to be. Ultimately, the players, with their accountability and self-regulation and self-responsibility, should be focused on their day-to-day academics, especially for the players who have interest in playing in college. Main points for college coaches are: 1, what are your grades like? And then 2, everything else. So that has to be and will continue to be a focus of ours, but it must be a focus of a player and the families as they are members of the program. Team Snap. Team Snap is something this is our means of communication for the program. Your coaches will be communicating with their calendars, messages, emails, chats via Team Snap. And so it's vital that every player on the team has a Team Snap account. Players should have as much connectivity to that account with their families as they can, so that they are not only subject to when their parents check Team Snap. It is up for the players to be responsible in monitoring and knowing what's going on within their teams. Players will be joining in on many Zoom sessions throughout the year with your team, with your coaches. We will have Zoom workouts with Coach Kent, who there will be days where we might be rained out, or the day might have been canceled, but we will still have a strength and conditioning session via Zoom with Coach Kent. It's possible that the players might have an off day, but the coach would still like for the players to potentially do some stretching, or maybe it's a potential recovery day where we will use Zoom as an opportunity and a medium to connect with the players. And then lastly, we have done quite a bit this past year, especially during the pandemic, with having special guest speakers. We did quite a bit, again, during the pandemic when we were in this downtime, mainly over the summer and then going into the year. But that's something that we will absolutely continue to do, to introduce our players to more information and to, again, special guest speakers who can support their endeavors. Google Classroom was another tool that we use quite often during the pandemic, and we feel there's an opportunity moving forward to continue keeping our players connected through our teams and being able to share information via Google Classroom. And then lastly, team social events. Obviously, with the pandemic, social events were a non-starter, but social events, obviously, as the pandemic kind of rears down and hopefully continues to go in that direction, we will be able to ramp up the team and program social events to regain connectivity within our membership. Summer training. So obviously now we are essentially in summers. There's, again, a couple of teams, the 04s and the 05s are still going to be training for the next month, as they are going to be participating in the national event in July. But for the remaining 4 teams, most teams will start training the week of July 19th. So a week or two following the 4th of July weekend. I know that it's possible that the 05 team may or may not start a week sooner than that, but that will be Coach Mark's discretion, which he will share, and all coaches will share at their individual or their parent meetings with the team here in the next week or so. Official fall season training begins the week of August 16th. I believe that is the specific week where official team training starts. I'm not positive, but I'm pretty sure that's our calendar week. That means that your session frequency, whether it be 3 or 4 times a week, will begin officially then. Coaches will share more specific schedules, again, in their team meetings once they have them. Training plans. So just kind of a training framework here for each of the team or each of the age groups. If you can see our youngest age groups here, the 09s, the 08s, and the 07s will train 4 times per week this season. What that means is they will be on the field 3 times a week, meaning they will have a field session, whether it will be LSP, Boland Park, Evergreen, or another facility, maybe a high school. And then they will have a 4th session. That 4th session is new this season. It's rather back this season. We did it a few years ago, and it's something that we're bringing back to our elite programming, which will be a futsal session for these age groups. And that will give us a chance to essentially continue to focus on those age groups in their individual player development or technical development more specifically. We feel that the youngest age groups are most crucial for technical development, and just as they come out of U12, we want them to continue to focus on the technique, and we feel that futsal absolutely highlights the technical standards and challenges for players on the futsal court. So we will be doing that. The 06, 05, and 04 teams will train 3 times a week. And both of these teams, both of these age groups, all age groups rather, in the program will be working with Coach Kent Legg throughout the season. So Coach Kent will be starting his programming preseason, which will be in July, early August. And at that point, Coach Kent will be starting and administering what will be our preseason testing, our fitness testing. So all players in the program will go through specific specific fitness testing that will be set up by Coach Kent. And then we will also then put the players again through a mid-year evaluation to just kind of see where they are in their progressions based on the preseason testing that we've done. So that will be led by Coach Kent. Let's see. Here is a look at what our projected training schedule will be for the fall for the entire program. Okay. If you're familiar, this past year, you know, each team individually had their own schedule, which may or may not have had them at the same location as another team. And in the same breath, coaches being in the same locations and giving our Ecnl goalkeeping director and Coach Kent, our strength and conditioning coach, opportunities to work with more of the players more often. So again, here is a projected look. This is not your schedule. This is not solid or confirmed yet, but highly likely, I would say, with regards to what your team individual schedule will look like based on the age group that you're involved in. Player attendance etiquette. Okay, obviously for us, and I think anybody understands when you have a job or when you're working or when you're playing on a team and you've committed, attendance is vital. And so for us, any player who anticipates being absent for a team event should notify the coach as soon as possible for the coach's planning purposes. And I think that's mainly the main reason. The coach, each coach is tasked with creating session plans, right? And when we run our session plans, the session plans are created essentially to the specific number of players that we anticipate being in training. And so communication from the players and from the families about when a player will be absent heavily dictates what we are and aren't able to do. I can tell it's quite frustrating as a coach when you showed up with your session plan in hand, ready to go, and you set up the training session, and then you begin to count your players at the start of session, and you have not enough players to accomplish the goal, or you have too many players for what you have actually planned. So again, just something that people need to be and players need to be mindful of is their communication when it comes to their attendance. This is offset. That strain or issue would be offset is just by the use of Team Snap. Marking your player attendance. Obviously, each session has an ability to mark whether you will or won't be present, and you can do that well in advance of the session. We would ask that people notify the coach by 3 p.m. on practice day, right? So if a coach is planning his session for the earliest time sessions, which are 5 o'clock, if you can get to the coach by 3, you've still given him an opportunity to potentially adjust his session accordingly. And then obviously for matches, even more important when we are naming rosters, if your team has a full roster or you have a roster size that is bigger than 18, then players and rosters need to be announced prior to game times or prior to match days. So that's also important for a coach to have that information on time so that they can appropriately address the team about the match that weekend. Correct practice gear is to be worn at all times. Everyone will have the ability to order their Capelli training kits, which should be sorted out for yourselves as you register through your offer for the team. Absences and late arrivals for training, team meetings, and pregame warm-up can result in team adjustment. So that means essentially if you've shown up late for training and team meetings and the coach has had something planned, maybe you were planned to be in the starting lineup, but then you were late for the pregame meeting or you were late for the warm-up for the game. Not that it will happen, but the coach has the right to essentially adjust their plan if they feel like they need to be as fair as possible. That might be something that happens with adjusting their team for the day. So just a heads up there. And then lastly, I think this goes without being said. No call, no shows are certainly frowned upon, and we do not encourage anyone to just not show up to something that you were scheduled to be at. We expect communication anytime you plan not to be present. Parents. Parents are key and vital members of our club, clearly, and we value the parents heavily. But saying that to say, just our little disclaimer here, and hopefully every coach has these regardless of what team there is. But please, no coaching from the sideline during training sessions or games. I'm sure everyone here in this call has heard that before. But for us, training, games is a learning environment, right? And so when we want the players to learn, the last thing you want is somebody sharing the answers or trying to provide them with answers while we are challenging them to come up with those answers and solve those problems themselves. Please be supportive and encouraging to the players that are on the field. Please do not address the referees before, during, or after matches. That is just something for us as a club. We absolutely value the refs, to say the least. We have made an initiative. We've had an initiative over this last year and a half, really to make sure that we are supporting the referees as a club. And we've created a referee program within our club that many of the players in this program that in the Ecnl and the Loudoun soccer are a member of. So we want to make sure we take care of the refs, because if we abuse the refs, there won't be any refs, and then we can't play. So we have to make sure that that is not a problem that we are contributing to as a club. Parents are responsible for whomever they invite to attend games. So siblings, friends, grandparents, etc. If they've been invited by yourself, or if they're coming to watch your player play, you would be responsible for their actions just as they are yourself. Parents are welcome to attend training. This is something that in the past we've had a slightly different stance on, but we feel it's important to open the doors, and we want to make sure parents, should they want to attend training, they can attend training, of course, while adhering to our facility rules or any facility rules, boundaries, fence boundaries, field boundaries that are there in place for the parents or spectators at any given location. Player-parent communication, coach communication. So this is pretty straightforward, but ultimately this is really created to hope to give the players some ownership in communicating with their coach. If a player has a question about their playing or maybe a concern they'd like to share with the coach, we ask that the player does their best to take that opportunity to share that with the coach specifically and directly, hopefully at a training session or a game if needed. And then if the family feels like that maybe didn't work, or maybe they need to just involve the parent straight away, that is fine. And parent, player, and coach can then discuss the said questions or concerns possibly. And then from there, you can see the progression. If I need to be involved, then we would take that step. And then if it goes beyond myself, we would go to the next step. Ultimately, and I'll say generally, we don't ever have to get past number 2. And so that's ultimately where we would like to stay. And we just ask that parents look to do their best to stick to following these steps when it comes to our, what you could call an escalation policy. Okay, so getting more into the details of playing and on the field here. So we have a newly shaped, you can say, Ecnl Mid-Atlantic Conference for the boys' side. This past year, there was a lot of meetings and discussions among club leadership and conference and league leadership about the makeup of our conference. What that brought was a removal of the South Carolina clubs and an addition of the Maryland clubs. So what you can see here, we have 17 members of the Mid-Atlantic Boys Conference. They added what were 4. I didn't add a new next to Pipeline, but Pipeline is also new. So there are 3 new Maryland clubs and 1 new Virginia club, being the Skyline, SoCa, now called Skyline, which our red teams have competed against previously, our travel teams in the CCL, our former CCL. This schedule. So for the entire program, everyone will play everybody on this conference list one time. Whether it will be home or away will be determined by the Ecnl league director here in the next few weeks. We should learn of our schedule. And then the younger teams, the U13s and the U14s that are not members of, that are not playing in high school, will then play another set of games versus the local clubs, being the Virginia and the Maryland clubs. So that would add an additional 6 to 8 games for the youngest teams, while the older teams would be competing in, and this is the spring side of the year, the older teams will be competing in their high school seasons, respectively. So the U15 and up essentially have players high school age eligible. So here's a snapshot of the competition schedule for the U13 and 14 teams. So here we start, we have league play will be in fall, some winter, early winter, and then early spring. Travel for these games, just kind of straight off the bat, we will talk about travel. For the Ecnl last year, we didn't get to do any traveling, obviously, due to the pandemic. Now with our new conference, it has not been determined. Well, it has been determined that we will be traveling and playing games over the North Carolina border, as well as in Maryland, but the North Carolina ones, which would require overnight stays. With that being said, as a program and a club, we have not discussed or finalized yet, rather, what we will be doing as far as travel goes when it comes to our teams making those trips for these away matches. Previously, not this last year, but the year before, we took charter buses. The entire program, 13 through 19s, would take a few buses, and it would be program staff, the coaches, and our team liaisons who would accompany the players on the trip. With COVID this past year, we were planning not to travel as teams, and we were going to send families individually. And so then now we will revisit that discussion here mid to late summer, once we have received our actual schedule from the Ecnl, know what it is to expect, and then we will determine and share with the families what it is we have decided as far as whether it will be everyone travels on their own, or if everyone will travel with the team by bus. So again, that will be something that we will determine down the road here. Tournament events, this is all, again, very tentative. Things could get bumped or pushed based on the Ecnl schedule as it comes out. So here we are for just a quick list. I don't want to go through them, but it's a good handful of events that are outside of Ecnl league season. And then we will be open to adding any additional events for these 2 age groups when appropriate or where appropriate. And again, if we do need to switch an event or change an event, we are open to doing that as well. Pushing through to the older age groups, U15 to 19s, quite a few more events or opportunities for events rather. And what you didn't see on the last slide, the league play will begin following Labor Day weekend. So with these older age groups, this is our college pathway or college recruiting pathway, part of the pathway for our teams. And so these teams are going to kind of have a more of an elevated I guess you can say, schedule. As they get a little bit older, they will have more to do. And that's just really attributed to our efforts trying to get players in front of as many college recruiting opportunities as possible. And so again, that these will also be dictated by what the league season looks like. And then also what's not involved in this schedule here is the high school season that the players participate in the spring side of the year. Just quickly, roster logistics and playing time. Everyone will get an equal opportunity to earn playing time. So please do not misread that or mishear that. It is not everybody gets equal playing time. It is everybody will get an equal opportunity to earn their playing time. And that is through training, through friendly matches. Players will have an opportunity to gain their share of time when it comes to match times. And then at the end of the day, it will be up to each coach's discretion on how they allocate players and how they play on the field. Playing times will be based, I can tell you, on attendance, effort, attitude, and then again, performance and training in matches. Coaches will share their individual player plans and roster plans with each of their teams as they have their meetings again. And just kind of as we wind through this, what's new to the program? So the few things that we've all listed, all of these, and I'm just going to go through these slides here that we have, just moving into these. So Sports Recruits is a new partner of Loudoun Soccer. Sports Recruits is our new official recruiting platform and network for our high school, college pathway age players, not only Ecnl, but in our travel program as well. But what Sports Recruits brings is an opportunity. It's an all-encompassing opportunity for players to connect with schools and coaches directly via this platform, while sharing a lot of their academic, their information they can share with players, or share with coaches. They can share their clips and highlight reels and match film. They can share their schedules of where they'll be playing. And then it also gives us as the coaching staff, an opportunity to essentially monitor the players. So what we are able to do then is it's a tool for us as the coaching staff to see what any individual player may be doing when it comes to their activity levels in their pursuit of trying to connect with coaches. And so if a player is doing really well, we are able to kind of monitor that and see that. And if a player might be struggling or having a hard time connecting, or maybe they're having a hard time with their keeping up with their replying or connecting to the coaches, this platform will give us as a staff an opportunity to monitor and help them stay on top of their own individual pathway as they look to connect with schools. So we are proud to bring that to the program. Next, I can imagine that every person in our program who ever had to set up a high pod for us or manage a high pod would love to see this logo at the top. We are adding now VO cameras to the Ecnl program. You have probably seen these around the field somewhere if you've been playing over the last couple of years, these tall towers with the green pod at the top. Each team will have their own VO camera this season, so there won't be any issues with having to set up or take down for somebody else or make sure that you are passing it off. These cameras are operated via app on the phone, which is excellent. And best of all, no cameraman needed. And here right now is just a nice screenshot of the quality of what it looks like from a VO camera. So we are certainly looking forward to that, especially as players look to create clips and highlights as they send to coaches. And then lastly, a new support platform that we will introduce to our oldest three teams, which will be our U16, our U17s, and our U18, 19s, is Stat Sports GPS tracking system. Stat Sports will be our new partner here. with regards to player tracking and metric tracking. If you've seen probably on TV to some degree, you've seen some teams or clubs at the professional or college level wearing these vests over or under their shirts. What they do is give us as coaches an opportunity to monitor and evaluate, whether it's in training or in games, or whether it's in a player's individual workout outside of a scheduled training or game. But we get to monitor, it'll give us a chance to monitor their workload and their efforts in game and in training, and also in comparison to their teammates and in comparison to players that are playing their same position. For the staff, it'll also give us an opportunity to monitor the workloads we are applying to the players and asking of the players. And so, maybe any given week, it's time to take our foot off the gas, and we can really get an idea of how well we did or didn't do that with our players. Maybe we have players that are maybe working too hard in certain moments, and we need to remind them. But it will be an excellent opportunity for the players and coaches to get a better idea of their actual efforts, and hopefully a bit of a motivation for the players individually when it comes to their own input in a training session or a match. So looking forward to that. Additional player development opportunities. Select players within our program this next coming year. We've done it lightly previous years, but we intend to turn it up a bit, is giving select players in each respective age group opportunities to train up. And training up, by what we mean by training up is essentially training with the team a year older, and giving those players who might need a challenge to maybe speed up their decision making, or to speed up their physical or be challenged maybe physically a little bit more. We recognize that some players might need that more than others. Some players are perfectly challenged by the groups that they're in on a day-to-day basis. But it's our jobs as coaches and player development leaders to make sure that we're identifying those chances for opportunities. But those will be solely dictated and determined by the coaching staff. So just a note there. Show players. So this will be afforded to the players who show technical superiority on a consistent basis in training and games. Players who have excellent levels of speed, strength, and endurance consistently in competition and may need more physical challenge are players that will be considered for that. And then players who show high levels of IQ on a regular basis, players who are able to understand the game and apply their skills at faster speeds of play, again, who need to be challenged by a little bit more. For our youngest age groups, we are still a member of P2P, which is our exclusive player development, semi-exclusive player development partnership with DC United and other top performing DMV clubs. But we will continue to share and send our players to DC United when appropriate on a P2P basis, which they have their own schedule, which we adhere to, and send players in, again, when appropriate, and we feel that players are deserving of extra opportunities to train and play. Lastly, we will do our best. I mentioned to improve and resume some program social events and activities. We hope to begin that process and those events the beginning of this fall season. We don't have anything set in stone yet, but please be on the lookout for a program, Ecnl boys and girls kickoff party, so to speak, at the park or designated location. That is all of the questions that I have, that is all of the information that I have, and now it's time for the questions for anyone who may have some. So I'm going to just stop sharing my screen here. and just kind of open up the floor to anyone who might have some questions just regarding my presentation or anything off the top of your head. And you can just open up, take your mic off, and we'll just kind of go from there.
Brian Gardner, father of Finn Gardner here. With the pre-Ecnl, we had the HiPod Go. What are we intended to do with that? Will that be donated or something going forward?
So your team has it or owns it as a team?
That is correct.
Right. So we can talk about that. I mean, you guys can use it still if you'd like. I would say we can probably maybe repurpose it or give it a chance, give it other teams, maybe other red teams, a chance to use it, younger teams. But that would be up to you guys, kind of the ones who possess that.
I think the minute you said nobody is required to video, I think everybody was cheering. So I think if we could pay it forward, so to speak, I think that would be good. Anthony, I know you agree. He's smiling. Absolutely. You
got it. Yeah, we will. We'll get in touch. Then I'll have Coach Roberto make sure that he touches up with you guys on that. So thank you. Next question.
Hi, Coach. Oh. Hi, Coach. This is Brendan Devine and his mom. I was just wondering if you could answer a question. Are kids allowed to have other sports while they're in high school while still being on Ecnl?
Great question. Great question. Absolutely. So players who compete in other sports is something that we absolutely encourage. I think the main thing for us when it comes to players participating in any other sports, whether it's high school sports that are not soccer, or it's, you know, a travel sport of some other kind. The main thing for us is just communication and being, first of all, obviously sharing that information with your coach so he has an idea. And then again, just being as forthcoming with the information and upfront and early, you know, as much as you can be with that info, and that will support the coach so he can make sure, again, he can plan properly. But yeah, we have no issues with players playing additional sports.
Okay, thank you for the support then.
You got it. Next question. No. All right. Well, if anyone has a question that they would like to ask, you can certainly ping myself via email. If you have my number, you can text me or call me. Or you can also reach out to your coach directly, and they may be able to answer your question for you.
Hey, Mo, one question. It's Jen Boner.
Yes, Jen.
Are you, or is the club selling the cards this year?
Fundraiser cards. I'm sensing you want to do that, Jen, yes?
No.
Well, then why are you asking? Because it was not in my presentation. No, I'm just kidding.
Because people are going to ask me, Mo.
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will. I know they will. No, we will not do any of those fundraisers this year. Or, well, I'll say over the summer. I don't want to completely eliminate those. It may be necessary for us for some reason as a program or individual teams to maybe stand up a fundraiser at some point during the year, but no, we will not have the coupon cards. So no.
Thank you.
You got it. Any other questions? Going once, twice. All right. Well, again, thank you very much to everyone for joining the call tonight. And we look forward to getting started. Again, be on the lookout for your coach, who will be sending out information and details regarding your own team meeting moving forward. Thank you, and have a good night, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, Mo.
Thank you.
Thank you.